Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining the Blindspot podcast. We're back. We're back like we never left. Trying to spice it up a little bit, trying to add a few flavors to the podcast. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today on Sunday. I appreciate you guys joining the platform. We got a good show for you today, good guests. Before we jump into everything, I want to introduce our sponsors. Our sponsors for the show that help us put this all together is Candy Styles Beauty, all right, Simone Speaks, and Cultivate Hemp Solutions, okay? If you know those names, you know those brands, go ahead and look them up on IG. We'll provide their IG and their contact at the end of the show. Okay. Today, we got a great guest with us. Her name is Shakira Johnson. The purpose of today's podcast is to talk about entrepreneurship and also how your purpose aligns with your mission on entrepreneurship. How did you get to where you are? I want to introduce our guest, Shakira Johnson of Maple and Monroe. How you doing, Shakira?
Hi there. I'm great. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me.
Yes, yes. Thanks for coming onto the platform. Sharing some tidbits, sharing some gems. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Jersey. I'm in
In
North
Jersey.
Jersey.
Okay,
Yes.
on the East Coast. Um, so before we dive into the interview, I want us to see if you could share with our listeners a little bit about yourself.
So one, just thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Shakira Monet Johnson. I'm the founder and chief impact officer of Maple and Monroe. Maple and Monroe is a global social impact think do tank. Maple and Monroe is my capstone work. It is I believe, the reason that I am born. It is my purpose here. And it is really the culmination of many years, over 20-year career in PR and events. Um, as a consultant, as a freelancer, as an agency owner, and now here in this think tank space. So, super excited to be here and to share what I've learned and all those things.
Mhm. Great, great. Now, you did mention our topic for today, which is purpose. From your perspective, from an entrepreneurial perspective, what do you consider, crucial elements in operating for someone coming up in business, period, not just consulting? What do you consider operating with purpose?
Uh, well, for one, operating in purpose means that you have to be clear in yourself. Just starting there, you have to have a certain amount of clarity. You have to have a certain amount of knowledge of self, because once you have those things, then you're going to be able to move forward from a place of saying, well, this is my purpose. So um, that I wish I could say is the easy part, but that could in many ways be the hard part because in order for me to uncover my purpose, I definitely had to go within. I had to
Mhm.
go through my own spiritual journey to really uncover my purpose and why I was here. And that looked like a lot of alone time. That looked like a lot of prayer. It looked like a lot of meditation. It looked like a lot of not doing things that I used to do. It looked like a lot of accountability. It looked like a lot of being sick and tired of certain things and wanting to do things new. It looked like really looking around and seeing what was going on at both a micro and a macro stage in terms of what's happening in your own home, what's happening in your own community, what's happening in your state, what's happening in your country, what's happening in the world, what's happening in the universe. And
Mhm.
so doing all of those things really then allowed me to peel back the layers and really see my purpose and how that really tapped into things that were happening on all of those levels that I just said. So if we
Yeah.
talk about the micro, but all the way to the macro. And then once you get there, and then that truth is revealed to you, everything else falls into place. And then you can operate really in a space that's one of one, where you're really the only one who's doing what you're doing, even though it may speak to other skills and abilities that people may have. But because you're so tapped in, both
Mhm.
physically and spiritually, it's only you, and there really is no competition at that point. So you get to operate at your highest frequency while at the same time bringing the greatest solutions, to your stakeholders possible.
That's great. That's great. Um, this world, like you said, this world that we live in, you got to find some type of balance, I would say, and just center yourself, above all the superficial things that can come along with your journey. Um, with that said, moving on, everything is changing. Um, of course, superficial and things of substance. So, with everything changing from a technology standpoint, technology is being rapidly introduced, rapidly advancing, to some at a detriment and some at a benefit. How would you say someone navigating through entrepreneurial stage can, use the technology to be advantageous for their journey or situation that they're going through now?
Absolutely. I mean, technology and humanity go hand in hand. From the beginning, we have utilized technology, rather that technology look like, stone tools, or the creation of fire, uh, to hieroglyphics on a wall, to now, um, machine learning. So it should be embraced because it is in our nature to use technology from antiquity. So, that being said, though, as with anything, we have to operate from a place of wisdom, right? So, just from a baseline, the machine learning and artificial intelligence, quote unquote, that we as business owners have access to allows us to do things faster, smarter, um, less expensive, do more that we couldn't do before without very expensive systems and things that really most people didn't even have access to. So, we as entrepreneurs, it's our responsibility to take full advantage of those things so that we can operate more on our purpose. That being said, these technologies are not in place of knowing your business, being an expert, things of that nature, right? I'm a big fan of, in particular, Chat GPT. Sometimes I get those letters mixed up. So if I messed it up, sorry. But I call it chat.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
call it,
Hey, I love it. I love ChatGPT.
I call it chat.
You
And
gave it
we
a
have,
nickname.
yeah, I call it chat, right? On a daily basis, we use it, and we do have the pro account. So we at Maple Monroe, we have um, some GPTs that
Mhm,
are just for us, that have our data loaded into them, and are
mhm,
trained to operate in a certain type of way, and they're shared amongst our team and things of that nature. But it doesn't is not in place of us knowing our business. It's not in place of our own expertise. So, that being said, as entrepreneurs, you still have to educate yourself. You still have to do your own research. You still have to talk to people, get on the ground, learn, listen, trial, error. Those type
mhm,
of things still have to happen. However, using artificial intelligence, it allows us to, again, just do more faster, clean things up. Hate it or love it, have less teams sometimes. You may not need the editor that you had in the same way, or not for the same amount of hours, because
yeah,
you can write something up and then kind of pass it through, and then it'll edit it faster, or there's just a lot of different things. Rather, it's even creating charts, graphs, mind maps,
mhm,
things that before you needed very skilled people to do. Now you can use these AI models to do those things and so many more, build tables and I mean, just the things that I've seen it
Yeah.
done, graphics.
You can do a
Um,
plethora of things with it. It's
right.
crazy.
It's mind blowing. I learned something new, and then the more you use it, the more it talks to you like it knows you. You know, I was doing
It's
it.
a little scary. It's a little scary.
I
But
was doing
no.
it one day, and it was like, Shakira, these ideas that you have are going to change the world, and I'm so happy to be working with you. And I was like,
Yeah.
I
It's encouraging.
right. It was encouraging and saying all these things. So it's an interesting thing. But I say all that to say, I believe that it is our responsibility to embrace these technologies, however, from a place of wisdom. This is not a time for you to phone in something. Like, oh, I'm gonna just have AI write a book that you know nothing about and try to put the book out and sell it. No, that's a scam,
No.
right? No,
Yes.
this is just you still know your business. You're still an expert. You
Mhm.
still have real experience and expertise. However, now you are using AI in this particular case to just help you to do something faster, or really even sometimes at a higher level than you would have been able to do it on your own.
It's great. Great. Yeah. And just rolling right into, talking about business and talking about Maple and Monroe. Um, what first explain to the viewers and to everyone what Maple and Monroe is, and kind of touch on the dedication to social impact and sustainability.
Right. So Maple and Monroe again is a global think and do tank, and our purpose is to help organizations catalyze their impact with innovative and sustainable campaigns, initiatives, and events. So, as I mentioned, just in the intro, my background is strategic communication. I'm actually traditionally trained in it. I graduated from Rutgers, both undergrad and grad school in communication, grad school organizational communication. And what that means is really just helping organizations, traditionally be large organizations such as a corporation, um, you could say a nonprofit or a government, really communicate their narrative both internally and externally. And the strategy to communicate that narrative, well, rather it is shaping that narrative, developing that narrative, and then what's the best way to communicate that narrative. Again, and that's both internally and externally. So that's my training. I started again. We still used to use fax machines and things of that nature when I first started. And government, like we would put press releases out via fax and
Mhm.
just so many different old school things. But that being said, over the years, really just had a chance to work with some dynamic individuals, organizations. I've
Mhm.
worked in government with everyone from, the local mayors and assembly persons all the way up to governors and senators and congresspersons.
Which
Also,
project would you say gave you the most tangible benefits, gave you, some sense of pride, you happy you accomplished it,
sense of pride. Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see.
It has to be one that you.
Oh goodness, this is a good one. I mean, they've all been great in their own way. Let me say
Mhm.
that. Everyone is special in their own way. All these projects are special in their own way. I would say the one that I really loved, and it is I did a project called Touchdown for Success for a um, foundation for children with special needs. And their challenge coming in was that people were supporting them, but they weren't coming to their galas. They would buy tickets, they wouldn't show up, so they had a really great message, but they needed, if you will, like a rebrand or a repositioning of what they were doing, a reimagination of their
Mhm.
programs. And then what we did, and I had a partner on it, shout out to Lynn Cortez. Um, we actually did a campaign again called Touchdowns for Success, which incorporated athletes from the NFL. We were doing events at MetLife Stadium. We were bringing the children to MetLife Stadium to interact with the players and learn healthy eating habits and exercises that they could do. And then we even did a partnership component with Microsoft, where we did the first of its kind for Microsoft called Calais Week at Microsoft, which was basically special needs children could come into all of the Microsoft stores and get different tips on like how they could do their homework or how they could learn and all these different things. So it was very hands-on, and it was beneficial not only for the students who were coming, but also for the parents who were looking for ways to really be able to help these children with special needs, rather it be in school or at home. So I would say if there was a campaign that's really close to my heart, is that one, because it ended up being children with special needs, parents, NFL players, Microsoft. It was all in a really it benefited all of the parties that were there, but at the end of the day, the children really got a lot of positive impact from that, from again just nutrition tips to how physically how they could move their bodies, and then also just tech and school and how they could be like smarter, retain information, things like that. So I would say that's one that's closest to my heart.
That's my favorite too, because we have a young daughter, and Juju, she's special needs. She's slightly autistic on the spectrum. So
I
we have
didn't know.
yeah, we're learning every day. She's such a joy, and she just brings all that energy that we need. So no, that's my favorite project of yours too.
Oh, it was so good. And let me tell you, it was supposed to be a 1 year project. It was so impactful that it ended up going 5 years. I actually forgot that we ended up going to corporations, big Fortune 100 corporations, and doing lunch and learns for the parents, because these parents, they're in corporate, they have children with special needs. Sometimes, sometimes there could be a stigma related to it. So there was just a lot of things. And I know autism, I think we're still in Autism Awareness Month. I think it's
Yep.
still happening. Yep. And so, shout out to all special needs moms and young people who are watching and listening. But so we ended up going into corporations and doing lunch and learns around special needs and autism and things of that nature. And parents were coming, and they were, some of them crying, saying, no one here ever knew. I was embarrassed to tell people. It just kept unfolding in so many different ways that when we first were brought in, we had no idea that it was going to turn into that. But it just kept morphing into bigger and better. We ended up at a certain point doing events with Porsche. It just went big, 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 big. And the donations to the foundation, they X'd up, at least 10X'd up. It was just so many phenomenal things, and they still have those relationships with some of those NFL players and all of those things. So the relationships never really went away. It is just a beautiful campaign all around. I was honored to work on it.
No, that's great. That's real great. And rolling, keep rolling, we keep rolling. And I just want to touch on, of course, you got plenty of experience, but we want to know, what kind of strategies have you found to be most effective in cultivating or creating an environment, of innovation within Maple and Monroe?
So again, besides going within and being really strategic about who we have on our team, one of our team members, Michael, says good people only, right? So good vibes only on the team. So that's important. That's super important when you're cultivating your team, that it's people who believe in your vision. It's people who believe in your leadership. that it's people who are smart and excellent in their own way. I like to say that, my team is smarter than I am, and as they should be, right? They are very smart in their areas of expertise, and it's an honor for me to lead them. So I would say, just as you're looking for team members, looking for people who are special, being able to have an eye for talent. I believe I have an eye for talent. But not only an eye for talent, an eye for culture, in terms of just how we show up for one another, how we show up for the client. That's a difference maker as well. So I would say those are some things that, just speak to how you build out a team. If there's another part of the question, just ask me that part now. But that's the
No,
team part.
no, no. The other part is, navigating through all of these social challenges that, we face. And when I say we, I mean our people, Black people, some of the challenges that we may face. How do you still kind of, uphold those different strategies in the face of some of that diversity that we have to face, that we know we all kind of have to face at some point in time?
That's an interesting question. I would say one is being really innovative in how we look for what success is as it relates to social impact or any type of program or initiative that is going to be done at a community level. Because if you're not careful, what you're doing can quickly turn into a photo op and a photo op only, meaning that you can do programs that look good on the surface and even feel good in the moment. But if you look back in a year, you'll see that that needle hasn't really been being moved for the community at all. And it's not for lack of money. There's actually more than 2 trillion with a T dollars being invested per year on corporate social responsibility, ESG, sustainability, community benefits, all of those type of things, over 2 trillion with a T per year. So it's not lack of dollars. It is that when you look at the KPIs or what the impact model is, many times you see there really isn't one. And when I say that, meaning what does success look like? That's not a conversation that many times it's happening in a way that is meaningful for the community. So companies will donate money, they will give money, and then they will maybe think that whoever they're giving the money to is doing the right thing with it. That may or may not be the case. The organizations themselves who are getting the money may not really know how to help the community. So when we look at this, we see a lot of times there's a big skills gap, which is why things are being done. It's not for lack of heart in many cases, and it's not for lack of effort, and it's not for lack of money. It's just that the model that these things are being done with is a model that is not necessarily one that is built to change, but more just sustain or support people in their current situation, as opposed to bring people into a new situation. So I would say that's the case. And then, but that's across the board. It's not by race.
Mm-hmm.
Something that is across the world. These type of things take place. When you incorporate race into it, as for me, a woman who is proud of her heritage and background, it is even more unsettling, because when you see who's most impacted by these type of performative actions, they are people of color, right? So a lot of times things are being done, again, that may look good, but it's very much a lot of going through the motions. And if
Yeah.
you come back in those communities that you see these things being done, you come back 1 year, you see nothing's changed. You come back 5 years, nothing's really changed.
Mm-hmm.
You come back 10 years, what has changed? It may have changed for a handful of gatekeepers or a handful of, people who are involved at the top, but the community itself stays the same or sometimes gets worse, especially in today's economy of inflation and people not getting raises or promotions or even loss of jobs. You talked about AI. There is estimated going to be millions of jobs that are lost due to AI. So those are things that, have prompted me and prompted the team to say, we've got to do more. So we have a theory of change
Mm-hmm.
that has been created after more than 10,000 hours of research and fact finding and interviews and talking to people. Me, myself, I went back to school to the University of Pennsylvania Social Impact Leadership Program to just make sure that we had top tier, world class, cutting edge IP surrounding social impact, and that our model was really first rate and something that we could take anywhere in the world and promise to make a change that is measurable, and that if you came back in 5 or 10 years, you would see, oh wow, the needle has been moved here.
Mm-hmm. And then for those, that are impacted, in the impoverished communities or underserving communities. And, circling back to what we were talking about earlier with entrepreneurship, it's not easy, for individuals in these communities to try to even, get their businesses off the ground. Um, what advice would you give to someone like with that passion, that hunger, trying to further themselves in their business? If they have a slip up or a setback, how what would you be your advice to them as far as like persevering through that obstacle?
Well, one, nothing's 100%. And also, losing is a part of winning. That's how you learn. It's a part of the game. There's nobody walking the earth that has just had 100 out of 100. It doesn't work that way. Despite what social media or what you may have heard, it would not be true. It's
Mm-hmm.
not true at all. I've taken a lot of L's. Like, just being honest. Like, I don't
Yeah.
win everything. I don't win every award. I don't win every contract. I don't get everything. Things don't always go my way. That's the reality of it. But I keep moving and I keep going. So over time, those wins just compound on one another. But that's just the reality of the situation. So you've got to take your ego out of that piece,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not going to get every contract.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to happen. But again, you keep going and you'll see, okay, the ones that you do get are quite lucrative, or the ones that you do get are quite impactful. And when
Yeah.
you don't get ones, you go back to them, you ask them for a debrief. Some of them will give it to you, some of them won't. That's fine. What didn't I do? What can I do better? What didn't I do well this time? Tap into resources that are available to you, like the SBA. I'm sure in your local community, there's a small business center, or there's so many
Score.
organizations, SCORE, thank you. There's so many, your local colleges and things like that.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some federal programs coming down to help people with that too. I'm not in a position to speak on them all yet, but there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of resources that are available. But I would say the biggest thing that you have to do is cut the distractions. You're probably going to have to turn the phone off, turn the TV off, turn all that off, turn some of your social activities off, and really
Yeah.
just deep and get to the bottom of who are you, what makes you do. This is also business. It's not a handout. Nobody owes us anything. We're really in the business of providing solutions to problems. That's what entrepreneurs do. Nobody has to support you. It's just not that. If people support you, we take that. But this is business, and business is going to be business. It's going to be tough. It's going to be cutthroat. So if you're not prepared for that, I don't know what to tell you, but that's really what business is. And that's whether you're brown or not. That's
Yeah.
the nature of it. So that's the part that you have to understand. And also just understanding the baselines of who is your demographic, what is your unique value proposition, what are your numbers, what does a profit look like for you, all of those different types of things. Who is your team, who is your accountant, who is your attorney? Those are
Mm-hmm.
things that you're going to have to work on, in order for you to have a business that's long term. That being said, it is possible to have a lucrative business that is profitable and you're in your purpose, or even if you're not in your purpose, that you're able to employ people and do great things. We
Mm-hmm.
need people to have businesses. Small businesses create most of the jobs in America. And
Yeah.
you asked about people of color. People of color, you have the opportunity to really change your community because you're on the ground, right? And also, just from a larger perspective, studies show that people look for business leaders, especially now. Trust in the government is at an all-time low. Trust in elected officials, trust in the media is at a low. Who people are looking to right now are business leaders. They're looking to the business community. So for those who have it in them, who have the drive, the passion, the determination, now there's no better time than now to get going. That
Yeah.
being said, I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow with no backup plan.
Gotta have a plan. You got
You don't know what you're doing. Shakira told you to go for it. No, I didn't say that.
Mhm.
Have your
Yeah.
plan because your bills are going to be due, right? And
Mhm.
so, those are just some things to keep in mind. If you do have a traditional job, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing to be embarrassed with that.
Yeah.
People with your job, use that. Sometimes people use that to fund their side business, or they use that, they work during the day and at night they work on their other business until they're able to replace the income from the first business. So I also just want to say there is dignity in having a traditional role. Don't let social media, have you out here feeling like, oh, I got to leave my job. Some of my girlfriends are very accomplished, very distinguished, phenomenal women, and they'll say stuff like, oh, you have your business, I haven't started mine. I'm like, it's okay. It's not a competition, and it's okay to work in a traditional role. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Some days it's not for me. I'm just like, why am I doing it? I'm being honest, but
Yeah.
it's not easy. But that being said, for those of you who have it in you, and you're committed to it long term, it is something that is tremendous. The freedom from it, the opportunities, the income, all of those things are spectacular and phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, keep your head down, measure your losses, and before you jump into it, like you said, have a plan, you know. So moving forward, wrapping everything up, how do you see Maple and Monroe move advancing in the future? You know.
Well, going back to your first question about purpose, because Maple and Monroe was really birthed in the darkness. And what I mean by that is birthed from within after doing a lot of soul searching. It is a one of one entity, meaning that there is no competition for it. It is what they call in business a blue ocean. It's almost a new category. And we've done the research to technically see who our competitors are. There really aren't any who are in this space and to do the things that we do. So, that being said, I really feel as though Maple Monroe will continue to impact global social change. That was the reason that it was created, and it will fulfill that purpose in my lifetime and beyond. And so, even just from the perspective of it is the business model of Maple and Monroe is that it is a social enterprise, meaning that it has business goals, traditional business goals, but in addition to it having traditional business goals, there's also social impact goals. We have an impact goal to positively impact over 1 million people per year. And so
Mhm.
we are working to hit that number. And I believe once we hit that number, if we don't hit it this year, I'm thinking by year 3, we should be able to hit that and then hit that on a consistent basis going forward. So I really see us working with Fortune 1000 corporations, working with legacy nonprofits, as well as working with governments all around the world to really help tackle some of their challenges as it relates to positively impacting people. And that can look like money that's being distributed. Who is that money distributed to? How is that money distributed? It a lot of times will look like measurement in terms of how are we measuring either the impact that our partners are making or even the dollars that we are investing. What does that
Mhm.
look like? Also, it looks like training. How do we train our teams internally to actually create this impactful work? and close the gap so that they're not using old models, but instead they're using new models for social impact and sustainability. And then I would say the next piece is also, to your point, preparing the people and working with the people to do these things. So, for example, the federal government has the Justice 40 initiative, right? The Justice 40 initiative is really looking around environmental justice and seeing how we can positively impact underserved communities. Well, the community has a role in that, right? But they need some technical assistance in order to really be able to tap into that. So the other piece would be helping on the ground, boots on the ground, helping communities, helping business owners such as yourself start businesses. Once you start businesses, I mean, that's step one. That's step one of one. Like that's the baseline. Now that you have that business, how are you getting contracts? How are you bidding? How are you moving through that bid process? All of those things so that you make sure that when these dollars, remember I already said it's 2 trillion, when they start coming down and they're floating around, they don't somehow float right past you and they miss you. You know how to actually get them and get in that stream of income.
Yes, yes, that's great advice, great information. We appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you for having
Yeah.
me.
Oh, before we go though, you're not just an entrepreneur. You're an author too, right? Don't you? You have a book,
Oh,
Over the
yeah.
Veil.
Over the Veil. Thank you so much. Yes, I almost forgot. So yes, Over the Veil. It is, we are in the final editing stages with it. It is a beautiful book. Number one, the artwork in the book is gorgeous. But beyond that, it is a 21 keys. The working title is Over the Veil, 21 Keys for Leaders Who Want More. And just like a lot of people who've had success, they've gotten the things that they wanted. They've gotten that promotion, that job, that car, um, that house, that dress, that purse, that whatever it was. And then only to realize that it wasn't as fulfilling as they thought it would be. And they want more. And so this really helps people to go on a journey within, to tap in to themselves, and raise their frequency, so that they can have more purpose, have more joy, have more peace, have more love in their life. And so I'm super proud of it. It's actually was Spirit asked me to write the books, actually told me to write the book. And
You got a release date? Is there a release date? I'm trying to get autographed.
oh goodness, coming soon, fall
Wow. Okay.
2024, fall
Okay.
2024. I will make sure that you and your lovely wife get an autograph copy of the book. But it's exciting, and we talk about changing lives. That book is going to change lives. People ask me about the book all the time. Literally, a text me, is the book done? You're asking, is the book done? So I have to make this book a priority
Yeah.
to get it done. But yes, that is Over the Veil. It is. This is also my work at this stage, and just going back to the purpose and all those things. I'm operating in the things that I do are from spiritual and physical purpose. The
Mhm.
book is purposeful, it's with intention. The work that I'm doing with my think and do tank is with intention. Both of them are closely tied to and based in social impact. So that just goes to, for those who are listening who say, I want to either do something or I'm doing something, but I don't know what to do. When you tap into your purpose and you get very clear about who you are, everything else will kind of flow from there. And you don't need to follow any trend. You don't need to do what other people are doing. Right now, social impact is a big thing. I mean, I've done social impact for 20 years, but that being said, this journey for me to even start Maple Monroe started 4 years ago, before everybody was even saying social impact in the same way, right? So when you tap into yourself and you tap into your own divinity, then you're going to be able to just be ahead of the curve. You won't need to look on social media or see what anybody else is doing or try to follow any of that. You'll just be able to focus on yourself and do what and offer what your unique value and your unique services to the world.
Yes, that's great. And again, we appreciate you coming onto the platform. Appreciate you sharing, your wisdom, your experiences with everyone. And everybody is mapleandmonroe.com, right? Mapleandmonroe.com.
Mapleandmonroe.com. I'm on LinkedIn, so please connect with me there. That's the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And just thank you so much for having me. I wish you nothing but growth and opportunity and deals and impact for your business and for your family as you go forward.
Hey, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining the Blind Spot podcast. Thank everyone for tuning in tonight, and keep up with everything that's going on, and stay in your purpose. That's the name of the podcast title. Just stay in your purpose, stay in your lane, and everything will work out. Thanks for joining us today, Shakira, and thanks for everybody for joining us. Appreciate it.